Now, Woolworths' first half headline earnings per share rose almost 35% to 135 cents. This due to a lower effective tax rate and the benefit of recent share buybacks. Revenues up 11% to 14.2 billion rand. The South African retailer expects growth in the second half to be broadly in line with the first half. Now, if you are growing revenue at 11% in an economy where we know inflation is around your 6 digits thereabouts and is expected perhaps to tick up a little bit, and then you flag to the market that you expect earnings in the second half to be broadly similar to the second half, and we've seen a 35% jump in that first half HAPS. That sounds very bullish. Let me begin with you, Byron.
Yes, I mean, if you annualize these earnings, so you just take these earnings and times it by 2, obviously the profit margins are going to vary in terms of inflation and so on. You're looking at a forward PE of around 15, which is pretty much in line with the rest of the retail sector. In fact, you know, the Woolies share price is up nearly 100% in the past year or so. So it's great to see the earnings growing into the stock. Fantastic set of numbers. You know, they really have got their strategy right in terms of buying. You know, they talk about price increases that they did both with the food and with the clothing, and people are willing to pay that Woolworths premium, especially when I mention the food. You know, you can use that excuse of going to shop at Woolworths because it's going to last just that little bit longer, or apparently it's a little bit healthier. Yeah. I don't know whether it is or not.
I like your choice of words, apparently.
I don't know if it is or not, but they create that image, and that's what they've been so good at, and they never fail to impress.
Is this Woolworths' best opportunity to grow perhaps to the size, if not perhaps you know, into some of the markets where the other bigger players have been playing, like your Pick and Pay? Given the disarray, if you like, in Pick and Pay, and the whole discussion around whether the Ackermans are exerting too much control and need to loosen up, and the lack of a CEO, is this Ian Moore's best chance to grow this brand to rival the big boys?
I don't think they want to.
Don't they?
I think they're looking at the upper class of the consumer market, and they're targeting that very well. If you want to get into a dogfight with the new Walmart or Massmart and ShopRite and Pick and Pay, I think that opens up a whole different ball game for them. So I think they're happy where they are. I think it's
Is that the right choice, to be happy where they are?
I think so. I think to probably expand the existing offering, probably up in Africa, maybe it all depends on where they see opportunities going forward. But I think the target market that they actually are targeting at the moment can take increases, etc. I think some of these other retailers, you're going to see a bit of more difficulty to pass on the price increases of the commodities, underlying commodities to the consumers. Yeah.
What about the announcement today about this mega store that they are planning on William Nicol? What I've heard and seen, and one of our reporters went to talk to Ian Moore, was that this was going to be Woolies' biggest store ever. That format and what they are trying to do in the LSM bracket, do those two things match?
Yes, I agree with Gerbrand where he says that they're going to stick with the upper end market. Yeah. But I do think they're going to take on, you know, the likes of Pick and Pay head on, especially with that store. If you go into the Pick and Pay store there and the William Nicol, you know, they make it a real shopper's experience. You walk in, there's places where you can taste cheeses and they fry food for you, and it's a real shopper's experience. I have a feeling this Woolworths is going to be similar, and as Woolies have always proven, they always do it a bit better. So they're going to make a real shopper's experience out of that, and that's going to be fantastic for the brand of the store. So I'm really looking forward to that mega store being implemented.
I'm reading excitement in your voice, certainly ahead of the opening of that store. But let's talk about the outlook for this group. What's going to drive earnings here? Maybe let's just detail it and break it down. When you look at them, Gerbrand, where do you see those earnings growth coming up? Is that going to be Africa? Is that going to be taken on Pick and Pay here in South Africa? Or is it in part going to come from fixing Australia, which we know in this set of results just wasn't as right as it ought to be?
Look, I think they, over the last 2 or 3 years, about 4 or 5 years, they had very much difficulties on executing their strategies, opening up smaller shops, etc. They've done that brilliantly. It's showing in these numbers. There's a lot of good news priced into these retailers. That makes it difficult as well from an investment point of view. But from Woolies' point of view, I think that niche market that they are serving is probably the right one to serve. They're going to probably do it through organic growth going forward.
And this is in South Africa.
I think it's in South Africa. I don't know how many viable stores in Africa they will be able to open at what margins, because remember they're making huge margins in South Africa.
Sure.
I think on the food side about 24-25%, and on the clothing side on more than 40% at the moment. So to get those margins elsewhere is going to probably be a bit difficult,
yeah.
But, especially with distribution centers, etc.
The vaunted African consumer, people speak a lot about Africa's retail opportunity, and people speak a lot about Africa's billion-plus people. Gerbrand sounds like he is saying it's not yet time for the likes of Woolies. Do you agree?
I think their strategy is more to focus on the clothing up in Africa. You know, the distribution and so on is a lot easier.
Stay away from the perishables because of the infrastructure problems, etc.
I did watch the interview though with Ian Moya, and he mentioned Nigeria.
Yeah.
And what the issue is with Nigeria is there's no shopping malls. There is one big one at the moment where everyone's getting involved, but Woolies need to be inside of a shopping mall. It's still a very market system there. But that's definitely going to change, because we know that shopping malls are more efficient. There's refrigeration, there's fridges and so on. So that is going to change in Nigeria. So when that happens, I think a Woolworths would do fantastically. It plays perfectly into a theme we like to call aspirational consumerism, where people aspire to shop at the likes of a Woolworths. You know, it's almost a status thing.
You want to be seen there.
Yeah, you want to be seen there. You want to have their food in your fridge to entertain guests and so on, and you want to wear their clothes. So I really like that theme. There's also like I mentioned earlier, the health theme. There's a lot more focus on health, on organic living. Woolworths have pioneered that in South Africa and really focused on the environment and so on. So I really do like the theme that Woolies are going for.
I'm seeing here red behind me. Let's begin with you, Byron. Hot or not, Woolies?
Yes, I'm definitely hot on Woolies.
This is a hot one. Gerbrand?
If you have to buy a retailer currently, yes, I'll go hot for them. But we just think the sector, there's too many good news priced into the price at the moment.
But it's still hot.
No, I wouldn't be buying at these levels. But if you have to buy a retailer, yes.
You'd have to buy Woolies.